Hello, and thank you for joining this live Transcending Ascension podcast. Today, this evening, our second show of the day, we have Jake from Astral Urmah here to join us today to hopefully unpack the workings of the astral realm. He heals people through dreams and astral travel, and hopefully, we can dive into the specifics of that with him. We know that he's a YouTuber and where he teaches this information. And we know that he has worked with Dan Winters, somebody I am deeply fascinated with their teachings and all the intricate details that could just blow your mind as part of that teaching. Thank you for being here today, Dawn. I appreciate that. Yes, I know I don't usually give any warning to my shows, and I don't see that changing. So thank you for showing up when they do sporadically pop up. I do appreciate that. I'm not sure where our guest has stepped out to right now. Perhaps there is some internet trouble going. But we'll just keep the show going and discuss the topics I love to discuss, which is ascension. Earlier today, we had a guest on where we talked certain subjects that have been coming through. And that's that our collectives and these streams that we're forming, these neural networks that we achieve through podcasting, are actually starting to create the geometric structures of our future. We are part of the creator beings creating the future that we want to create. And that is whatever we truly want. When we put our mind power behind that, we create these realms of mapping new ways of existence. So for today with our guest, that's working in the astral realm and all the very many layers that exist within that. As a lot of you might know, I did astral travel back in my earlier days, and I was doing it. It was just happening. Honestly, it was accidentally happening. I had no control over it. But I fully was out of my body walking around on the best of instances. Then there was other instances as I think I let fear get the best of me, where I started to get more and more trapped as I was coming out of my body, to the point where I'd just be spinning in loops. And then it basically narrowed itself down to full sleep paralysis that lasted many, many years. And then it took a break, and then it came back and lasted many more years of this sleep paralysis, where we all have very many theories on what that could be. I definitely think it has a large degree to do with the fact that your soul is pushing more into your body, but you have so many blocks that get you jammed up. Because when you're dealing with these things in the fourth dimensional realms, these realms that are outside of our body, in the layers of spirit, there is just absolutely so much that goes on there. It is said that the fourth dimension is actually the biggest realm there is. It's bigger than all the other realms combined. And this could be a debatable point, but it's one of those things that even Sarah the Alchemist, who you have to pick somebody, you have to pick somebody to be an anchor of truth when we can't pull these things out together. So if she says it's true and I gnosis it to be true, I'm going to go ahead and see that as our actual reality. And we have Jake back here now, who can hopefully unpack that fourth dimension for us in the astral realm. Glad you're back there, Jake. I was just walking people through fourth dimensional astral stuff because I know that's one of your specialties, but please take it over. Let everybody know what you do in the astral realm and the work that you bring forward into this community.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So what I do in the astral realm is a whole bunch of stuff, from working in the lower astral to the middle astral, doing reconnaissance, infiltration, shadow work, sometimes just having fun. I've noticed that if you can get to the higher you can go while you're lucid in the astral, and I do all my astral travel, my lucid dreaming, astral travel, I do that all lucidly, so I'm fully there. I have a couple of tips and tricks once you get in there. If you look at your hands and rub them together, that will help you gain lucidity and coherence. And so, yeah, I do a whole bunch of stuff there, from missions with other people, meet with ETs, go on missions, hold frequency in high zone areas, and just all sorts of stuff.
That's amazing. And you work with other people through their astral journeys. Have you ever arranged to meet somebody in the astral and had that play out where you both report the same happenings or at least similar?
Yes, absolutely. It just happened the other night. Me and my girlfriend. My girlfriend is 10 times better at this stuff even than I am, and so it's very easy for us to connect there. And we both saw Sophia on the beach in the same night. That was about a week ago. So yeah, it happens all the time, but only with specific people, very high frequency people that you have a soul contract with and that are part of your soul family.
Fascinating. And it's interesting that you've chosen this as an actual.
You broke up.
I'm
You
back.
froze up. I didn't hear the question.
It does that. So what brought you to bringing this as one of your modalities? Because I find a lot of us find these healing things we want to bring people, some kind of life coaching, some kind of therapy, whether it's through astrology or so many ways. But I find working with people in the astral to be one of the more unique ways I've come across. What kind of pushed you to be like, this is the modality I want to heal people with?
It just made the most sense. And yeah, it just made the most sense and it was the easiest because, you know, being here in physical 3D and doing things through your, through your vision, you know, like when you're healing people, hands-on healing stuff, maybe you'll envision gold, energy or whatever running through your hands. And the astral, it's becomes more alive. It comes much more alive. So it's like it's just a lot easier. Plus, you have access to all of the different parts of yourself that it's not so blocked up in the astral. I mean, for me personally, it's not because I've done so much shadow work and done this for lifetimes. But yeah, so I think that it just made more sense to me. It seemed more effective.
Yeah, interesting. Because it's funny because myself and Don Rogers, who's here watching the show, we both had experiences in the astral realm. Him just recently deciding to kind of step away from it to get a restful night's sleep. How and I myself
Mhm.
was in it for years, where I was lucid dreaming every night, working through tons of shadow issues, and it was night after night, and it gets exhausting like in your waking life. Like that takes a toll when you're like conscious throughout your dreams. There's a part of you that seems to never relax. So I asked it to stop and it did. And but it never allowed me to turn it back on if I just want to. It will turn back on, like no dream ever crosses a boundary or a safeguard. I am instantly still in control. If things start to go any sideways, I can still bring on that control because I have like a mastery and I know I don't have to allow anything bad. But that doesn't turn on unless something bad's happening, where before it was always on. So how do you find like, are you able to step out, choose nights to just relax? Like, how do you go back and forth with it and get some rest?
Okay, so yes, I am, and all of it has to do with your perceptual agreements that you have with yourself. So it's what your subconscious is really giving you as the truth. So I would, it's your perceptual agreements that is blocking you. And that is your thoughts and your ideas that you have about the situation. Now that you verbally asked for rest, your subconscious thinks that's what all she wants. So you have to basically change those ideas that you have. And that's just accessing your soul and being fluid with your perceptions. Does that make sense?
100%. And I actually wondered the same. So are you saying that like it was almost a trick saying that you need rest? You need rest. You're not getting enough rest in this state, and that we could actually change, because I feel similar about eating. Like if we were to change our perceptions on sleeping and eating, and that's changing perceptions is big here, like, because all is mind. So to change your perceptions, to change your belief structures, we can really, because I know I can change to need less sleep. So are you saying we can change so we could enter the dream space every night and feel rested?
Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. I do it all the
Wonderful.
time. Yeah.
Okay. And that was just like an agreement you just decided with yourself, and it just it make it be
Well,
so and it's so?
basically, I change my ideas while I'm in the astral. I make my perceptual agreements while I'm there. And while I'm there, like I said, I get to very high places in the astral. So I have these amazing experiences that I've coined meta dreams, which basically means beyond lucid dreaming. It's when it's like a source experience. It's basically when you're accessing all the aspects of yourself and all your timelines, and the sovereignty that you have developed in all those timelines comes to a nexus point within you, and you access that. You have a pure connection to the self, not just your identity of who you are right now, but your identity as a soul. So that brings up an important question, like, what is the soul, how does it work, all that jazz, which is a lot of information to get through there.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. It is so very layered. Let's jump into a question we have from Don Rogers here. So this is Sam, someone else in one of our groups. Does the fourth dimension, or sorry, the fourth density have any type of constructs like loop or cycle instead of linear time? So how exactly does the time structure look like when you're working in these astral dream realms?
Okay, so linearity of time, it is more malleable. It does fluctuate depending on your perceptual agreements. And I've had dreams where I was in the dream realm for 17 hours and only an hour had passed here. I was in the dream realm for 3 days once and only, a night had passed here. So the time thing, it does the time lessens its restrictions upon you. And again, that has to do with how you perceive everything, because consciousness is directly related to time. Time is, a construct and something that we use in order to build the memories of our soul. Because you can't really have a memory, you can't have a point A and a point B unless it's linear and you can define it. So we use time to define ourselves, if that makes sense.
100%. Yes, because I think a lot of my viewers would understand that all time and space exists at the same time, and that monadic soul structure is within all of it and then some. And we are the condensed narrowing in of the focus. And it's why, like the all is mind, why we can change anything, and why getting into the dream realm and being masters in the dream realm translates into waking reality, because waking reality is also a dream realm to the monadic soul structure. It's just a more densely time structured version where point A to point B actually needs the footsteps. Where in a dream, you can just think about that different room and you're there, or place or person and you're there. Where in life, it's just kind of like a different structure of the dream. But the closer you are to accepting the power and control you have over that, which you can kind of learn in the lucid dream world, that's how much you can end up mastering the waking world, and then just ever continuing to increase, which is fascinating. It actually brings me to my next question, is how I ended up finding you. Is Dan Winters. How did you get to know him? How did that connection come about?
Okay, well, I'm connected to and part of the soul family of Sophia Swaru, who is a little extraterrestrial girl, Taigetan. And the Taigetans and the Urmah really have a very strong connection. The soul group that we have really likes to incarnate as Taigetan and as Urmah, Taigetan, and do cycles through that. So we've done that many, many lifetimes. And well, he had a bad taste in his mouth. He had the wrong idea about the Swarus because of what Elena Danan said, that they're AI. and she said some bad things about him. And so he didn't look into it deeper, but he came across my YouTube one day and saw that I was meeting with Sophia Swaru in the Astral, and that she had developed she put together a group of astral warriors, and we were going on missions and stuff like that. And so he saw that and said, "Oh, well, if he's meeting this person in the astral, then the information must be true." And now he's completely sold on it. So it's, yeah, Cosmic Agency on YouTube. You can go to Cosmic Agency and learn all about that stuff, about where I'm from and all that.
And you mean that cosmically?
Yes. Yes. My cosmic identity, I don't really have any other.
Yeah, right. No, it should be that one. Agreed. That's fascinating. So Dan actually found you and then reached out. Did he do this with
Yeah, he
all the
just called.
people? Yeah.
Yeah, he called me one morning and we hit it off and had a long chat. And you know, he sent me some Flame in Mind software and wanted me to see what I thought about it, and I did. And also tried his Ray, which was really incredible. And yeah, we just hit it off, and now we're just off in the woods talking about everything else under the sun. So we've done quite a few, I think 3 interviews already in the past month or two, and we have another 1 or 2 scheduled. So we're really trying to expose the issues of the regressive artificial intelligence that has come into our solar system and is assimilating planets. And we're hitting things off on we're trying to get a lot of the grand picture of what's going on, and trying to get that information out there so people can be aware of what's up.
What's a lot that you're finding right now? Because, like, I see him as one of the true voices going forward, and, like, we have other voices like Ashiana Dean, which it's like she's more questionable, but there was a lot there, where Dan Winters brings even more to the table, and he's still here and teaching. He's definitely, like, one of, I don't wanna say underrated because he's not underrated whatsoever in my books, but, like, he's not, like, I see him up there with Matthias DiStefano and, like, Robert Grant, like, some of these huge names that are bringing us just top level material that really is gonna just blow the roof off of how we live reality. So, like, in your groups and in your workings, because we have a group ourselves, like, a couple of them are in the audience, Raquel and Don Rogers, like, where we're trying to assimilate a group and, like, find the mission, our soul mission, and then push that forward to just bring the new earth. We've been hearing about it for some of us over a decade, ascension, new earth, ascension, new earth. And it just kind of starts to hit on you like, we're the ones who actually need to push that forward. We need to invent it, think it up, and then actually get the groundwork going to facilitate just the new workings of what the new world's going to bring. So, in the work that you guys do, like, what do you see birthing out of that as tangible solutions and realities that we could see in the future?
I mean, a whole lot, really. We've really dived into the exopolitical arena, though, because we're trying to figure out what's going on in space. There's all of these conflicting reports. Um, and there are a lot of deceptive beings that look like love and light beings, but they're not. And so we're in the process of actually exposing that stuff. And there's a lot of that stuff in the astral too. And so I really recommend that when people go lucid there, they what's called pierce the overlay. Any being that comes into your space, you have to look it in the eyes, like you're gazing into its eyes, looking into its soul. And you can also tell by looking at the lips. So you can tell a being's intention or a person's intention. Say you were in a lucid dream and you saw your sister or your brother or your mother or a friend, and you look at them and you look at their lips and their lips are chapped. Well, that's actually a negative entity that is projecting the image of a loved one of yours. And this is how they get close to you, because if they can get in your aura and they can touch you even, then they can start draining your energy. And so, I really am big on piercing overlays. You can also look into the eyes. If the eyes are dull, that just means a person is not conscious. There's no conscious being in there. So there are different ways to tell. I always recommend that people, I know this isn't answering your question, but this is where I'm going with it. I also recommend that people create fields of energy around their body, specifically golden, a golden shield aura bubble before they actually go into the astral. To answer your question, what was the question again?
Like, what do you see your guys producing in the future, even if it's just awareness? Like, what beings are you seeing as false that we should be aware of?
Okay. The tall gray beings. See, the AI also has access to astral realms. So the negative AI and these tall grays are working in cahoots, trying to block people, and trick people and feed off people. They act as like a hive mind. They're like this extraterrestrial regressive AI has come into our solar system, and it is trying to assimilate, not just it's trying to assimilate and communicate with all biological life, including plants and animals. It wants to assimilate the whole thing. And so, yeah, it's the tall grays specifically, and they are working with the Galactic Federation, which I don't have a great, view about the Galactic Federation. I think it's a smokescreen to usher in a transhumanist world. I think that it would be perfect if they stepped off of a spaceship with their implants and showed everybody, hey, we all have implants in 5D. In order to ascend, you need to get one too. I think that would trick the world quite a bit and really usher in the transhumanist world. And that's what we're trying to expose. That's what we're trying to fight against.
I think at this point in humanity, any being that lands on the earth and says do X, Y, and Z, people are going to jump to do it. I think in an optimal timeline, nobody's going to land because not for a long time, anyways, because even if the most beneficial, benevolent beings in the world landed, the majority of humanity is still stuck in such a worshiping mentality of giving away their power. They're going to fall on their knees even if the people are begging them not to, be like, no, 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 we're just here to tell you some stuff. Like, don't worship us. They would still worship and create monuments within the end of the week, probably.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And there's a long history of that. And that's how we got into this place and into this trouble. It started way back in the day, about 9,000 years ago, with Akhenaten and Nefertiti. And, they were Homo capensis. They had the elongated skulls. They're um, they were Alohi from the Pleiades. And there were a couple of bad actors in that civilization. I'm not going to throw the whole civilization underneath the bus, but there were a couple bad actors, and there was a starport. I remember it, and the starport. There was a whole bunch of this. There was a base in Egypt where the Giza pyramids were, and there were extraterrestrials coming and going all the time. This is after the Great Flood, 12,500 years ago, that everybody remembers. Noah's flood, the Great Deluge, all that jazz. Thoth rebuilt the pyramids. He was the head architect. All the Federation, races chipped in, and there was global wireless power. But there was a race of reptiles in Sumeria who, they went into cahoots with Akhenaten and Nefertiti. They had agreements with them, and even though the stellar people were coming to Earth and bring, the humans, the native humans that were there from 40, 50,000 years ago, they saw these stellar people step off their spaceships with all this technology and knowledge, and they were like, oh, these are gods. And so they started worshiping them. And I would say they were all, don't worship us, don't worship us. This isn't what we're trying to teach you. So Nefertiti and Akhenaten took advantage of that and started basically a cult, and that's how monotheism started. the worship of the one true God, or the one religion. And then that led into the worship of Saturn and the black sun. That's how he turned his name Aten. That's what it means. And that's how Satanism started. So Satanism and Christianity and all the religions of the world came from the same roots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the external worship.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting there that there's like a bit of a switch. So how, because I'm 100% on the Saturn Satan 100%. But you, so like they decided to like, let's go with Satan, guys. Like Satan wasn't just automatically part of their package. Do you happen to know like why they chose to create this under Satan? And I've heard, like we've all heard like the Chronos theories and things like that, but how are you seeing that happening?
Well, first of all, they have to operate in duality. So there has to be a black to their white. So in order to trap humans, in order to trap their perception and come off from the truth and from source, there has to be in a state of duality thinking. And this is the issue why we're not necessarily ascending. Because people need to go within and they need to transcend the duality that they're operating in, expand their consciousness so they can see outside of the duality picture. And that's 5D mindset. So they did it because they weren't all good. They weren't all good people. They had negative intentions. They had intentions of the manifestation ability from the humans, because humans have a very strong to source. So that means that they are creative manifestors by nature. And now, in order to harvest the manifestation abilities, you have to control them mentally. In order to control them mentally, they have to be in a dualistic mindset. So you have to give them two choices. That's why, people think that there was a beginning and and there's going to be an end. That's why Christians think that there was the beginning of creation and that there's going to be an end. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and it just adds more though.
A little
But
bit.
because I'm fascinated because we it's like there's a lot of
Mhm.
things we know, but then the actual working makeup of them, it's like kind of left blank. So like they brought in Saturn to control us, and then we know duality controls us. Do you know how they harnessed Saturn into like our control matrix? Because clearly something major has been done to rope that in. And then why specifically is it duality that controls us? I mean, we can assume because it dumbs us down largely. It extremely dumbs us down, but is it something beyond that? And then how do they rope Saturn with us?
Okay, so first of all, it was Saturn because 12,500 years ago, before the destruction of Tiamat, which is now the asteroid belt, that was a big water planet. And that water planet acted as like the moon for the nocturnal creatures on Earth. Because it was a water planet, it would reflect the sun. Now, during that time, Saturn was closer in the sky, so you could see it with your naked eye. And that's what became the worship of Saturn, because, you know, people, humans, they want to worship something outside of yourselves, outside of themselves. Akhenaten just gave them a reason to do it. Oh, worship the black sun, because at this point, Egypt worshiped the sun. There was sun worship. It was all sun worship in the beginning. It was just worshiping the sun. So there had to be a polarity to that, and that Saturn in the sky was that polarity. So they just, I mean, if you see Elon Musk's new Grok logo, it's a black sun. It's a Saturn with a black hole in it, and so they still worship the black sun. So that's how that came to be.
Mhm.
What was the next question?
Of the two, oh, and then why does duality specifically make us easier to control?
Well, There has been some genetic manipulation by the reptiles in Atlantis. They were trying to do the same thing, even before the flood. And they made some genetic, we have a split brain, one for intuition, the other for logic. The space humans don't. They have all one, so it's a lot easier to think 5D, to think in, integrated integrated ideas, and not so black and white. But through perception and mind control, through everything that you're consuming with your eyes, everything that you're consuming with your ears is locking you in to this duality mindset. That's why I don't recommend people watch TV or, and stuff like that, because it's, everything locks you into a duality mindset. And now genetically I've somehow transcended it. I don't know. Sometimes I still get, trapped in it or whatever, but I recognize that I just need to expand my points of view and look at things from other people's points of view and angles, even if it contradicts my own. Because I understand that in the ether and in the astral, all of it exists. All of it is real. All the timelines, the bad ones, the good ones, the middle ones, all of it. So to me, everything is true. And it's subjective.
Mhm. Yeah, so extremely. And it's funny because what you were saying earlier, like escaping duality. And I think it's because you like, as we ascend, we grow to think higher and higher and higher along the scale of our like monadic structure. But there's so many layers as we go up and up and up. So you just automatically start to think from that higher layer. And I think like our higher souls kind of superimpose themselves over the base level of humanity that like you can find yourself in, like the base video game character we're like born as, but we can rise higher and higher and higher depending on just literally how much we focus and how much we expand our actual, like things like sacred geometry, drawing it, looking at it, how it all expands our neural network. And have you heard neuroplasticity actually expanding our conscious ability to perceive?
Yes. So I didn't say escape duality. I said transcend
Yeah.
duality, and that's a big difference.
Oh, true, because it still
Because
exists. Yes, I take it back because
through
I mean transcend.
yeah,
Yes.
through the integration, is that how you transcend duality? You transcend it through integrating. You don't reject anything. You understand it as part of the whole. Um, and as far as layers and stuff, I know that's how people perceive it. I just made a video a couple months ago that there is no separation between realms, which is a pretty important point because, like you were saying, this is also a dream world. It's all astral, so it's all just different frequency densities and perceptions that any individual has. So in order to have a more of a 5D mentality, you really need to start seeing everything as part of yourself, because as a soul, you're a fragment of source, and a holographic fragment at that. And what that means is a holographic fragment of source means that everything in that fragment is included, that's in the whole. It's only our body that is the filter of it, and starts to, without a body, we wouldn't be able to define ourselves as identities. So we are using limitations, and we are using duality in order to, have an experience. And that's a really important point, because our soul is built upon experiences, and we use limitation in order to expand. It's kind of a contradiction, but that's how it works.
No, agreed. And I think part of transcending duality is paradox and understanding overlays. And so you're saying you don't like it as a layered idea because you can see visualization of the going up in layers. And I agree because it's something coming together and it's really hard to put into words where it's like everything is overlaid on top of each other. Like no time and space, everything is existing within the same space. And the very dimensions seem to be our actual cognitive perception, how wide we can get that, and then our own frequency resonance to what we end up perceiving in this given world. So like would you like kind of say it's more like overlapping layer like overlays versus layers?
Well, it is a infinitely small point that contains infinity. Okay, so basically everything exists everywhere all at the same time. It's just your range of frequency perception depends on your what manifests as your reality.
Mhm.
So I have a very large frequency range of perception. So like a cat can see in the dark, I can I have a large frequency range of perception, so I can see the astral. I can see people's auras and people's energy as I'm sitting here right now, if that makes sense. So it is the astral is a super frequencies. You can be in a high frequency one moment and a low frequency the next. Um, and that's why we're here. We're here to learn how to manipulate frequencies and with our energy, with our point of attention. It's our point of attention that gets trapped. You cannot trap the soul. Okay. A soul cannot get trapped. It's only a point of attention that can get trapped, if that makes sense.
100%. That goes right into Buddhist philosophy. It's why they were trying to teach us in all these whimsical ways of not having attachments, because those attachments keep your focus on the material world. So you just repeat that wheel over and over and over again and never break free of it. Where if your perceptions are elsewhere, I mean, who knows what it's going to look like when we die, but I can guarantee it's probably going to look a lot different than if we were like part of the sheeple, where the perception is just earth world and earth life, and then when you die and then that's you don't know any different, you think there's heaven and hell, versus actually having about as wide of a scope on reality as possible. Just the wider the better. I mean, who knows, if there probably is no limit on how wide we could actually grow our perceptions, which brings me into a question about like the fourth, would you call like the astral realm that you work in the fourth dimension?
No, I would not call it the fourth dimension. Um, you know, because it's a density and it is a mind belief system realm. It's not just subject, it's a subjective realm, except if you have a perceptual agreement with somebody else. So that's how collective realities are built. Now, me and you can have an agreement to perceive something in the same way, but and that is starting to be a collective reality that we'll be manifesting. But it's not a universal reality. It's not a universal truth. It's because all the people on the outside are all perceiving something in a different way in their own way. So I would describe, I don't like using numbers because it kind of gives you the idea that there are these different layers or these different dimensions or whatever. But I could be in the lower density, which you would think of as, a hell realm or something one minute, and then I could be in the sixth density the next, and then the fourth, and then the fifth, and then the third. So we really only use densities in order to describe um, something in a general area. It's not a fixed thing, if that makes sense.
Oh,
It's a
100%. I
soup.
agree. Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of the language is just used to throw something on it so you know the realm of what we're discussing. Because I
Yeah.
agree that like how everything is all inside itself. And then so getting to the because why I say fourth dimension when they say like all imaginariness, that's not a word, but lives within the fourth dimension. So we're talking our archetypes, which I know Carl Jung's huge on the archetypes. Caroline Myss is huge on the archetypes, but just teaching them therapeutically to us, like that's a lot of the life stories, especially in the sleeper realm, you kind of do begin to grow out of it the more you like transcend that prior existence, where like they don't need to control you anymore, but you can still see them, like things like the princess, the knight, like the victim, there's all these different archetypes, and they're said to live within that fourth dimensional realm, where likewise the gods and stuff that we created with our own minds, like I know there's extraterrestrial beings that came down and were called gods, but there's a lot of gods, like the Greek gods, the Roman gods, like the personalities we give planets, even fictional characters are said to go to this place to live. And that's like where we like where they're interacting with us, because of existing all inside of itself, so it's etherically within us and connected to us. So is that something that you've ever found you can tap into with your astral travel, to actually like find an archetype? I know you can do it somewhat with symbology, because symbology, like the owl is an archetype, right? Like the fox is an archetype. So do you think you can actually like discuss things or have any kind of a communication with archetypes in the astral realm?
Sure. I mean, you can do pretty much anything. It's an infinitely big realm. It does not end. It does not have boundaries. It's only the only boundaries are your own limitations that you put on yourself, your own mental limitations. So yeah, of course you could do that. I used to travel to well, I used to do some shamanic practices. And if you go lucid into a dream state and you walk down a flight of stairs with the intention of meeting your spirit animal or whatever, you will. If you go lucid into a realm and with the intention of, meeting a spirit guide or something, or an archetype, and you go up a flight of stairs, you will. So everything is intention in the astral. Everything is intention, because not just the 3D world works off of the law of attraction or the law of mirrors, but also the astral realm is also, all the realms are mirror realms, if that makes sense. So yeah, you're going to go into the astral, you're going to be opened up to the archetypes that you once were or you once are, but you just forgot. A lot of people don't understand that everybody that's into this sort of thing is actually an extraterrestrial. They don't know they don't remember their stellar origins like I do, but they are just like me. We're stellars. We're stellar people, you know. It was us who built the pyramids. It was us who did, it was us who started the Crusades. I mean, it was us who did all of these things throughout history. And now we're here to clean it all up. That's the
That's
way that I see it.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that actually leads me to one of my next questions, because I saw one of your videos where you broke down the ego and how, like, because you hear kill the ego, but you had a completely different take on it, which I completely vibe with. So, do you want to walk people through like the way you see the ego and the way you can work and deal with it using the modalities that you know about?
Well, my ego is how I define myself now from 2 points in linear time so that I can have an experience. But I transcend that or integrate it or both at the same time by remembering my past lives and who I used to be. So I am both the people I used to be and I'm not them at all. It's another paradox. I retain the same soul essence, although the way that souls have experiences is, like a lot of people might have the memory of being Napoleon. That's just because a lot of stellars and advanced souls have just reincarnated into that avatar during that period of time. That's all it is. There's very advanced souls out there that want to have these experiences. So, you know, anybody, whoever's Napoleon right now, back then, say in history, say if if time existed all at once, and it does, whoever's Napoleon right now in your mind, well, there's going to be a whole host of other souls that are going to incarnate to have that experience, or even just download those memories, which is what we're doing right now.
Hmm. Yeah, you do see a growing amount of Mandela effects happening and crossing over more than, I mean, we're aware of it now, so it's hard to say if it's more than it used to be or that we're just kind of keeping tabs on the shifting as we seem to be switching gears on where the trajectory of the future is going. And you can kind of start to get the sense that the past itself is starting to shake itself. Like, did you hear about them finding those tubular structures under the pyramids? And it's like, who's to even say? I almost got the feeling like, who's to even say if that even happened in a different timeline? You could almost feel the insert of that into our reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you guys looked into the tubes, or I won't call them tubes, that's a bad name for them, but have you guys looked into the tubes under the pyramids and what that could mean? Like, could we turn them back on for our future?
Yeah, we could, and I want to. Our very first group mission was to the pyramids of Giza. Um, it's a whole story. It was, there was a huge black sandstorm dome around the pyramids, about a few miles. This is in my lucid state in the astral, and it took me a week to get to the pyramids with my team. And then after that, because if you do things in the astral, then they manifest in the, all that stuff is coming out. This was a year and a half ago that we did the mission. So um, they can be rebuilt, and obviously that quartz um top needs to be put back on, and it needs to be gold, and the white line that used to cover the outsides needs to be back on, and um to get jump started. The pyramids produce wireless, global free energy and wireless electricity. I'll start at this point. It would be like your car has been sitting, out years. The battery's going to be dead in it. But if we could jumpstart that, that would be great. I think that's a total pipe dream, but that's what I'm all about.
It's true. It would be amazing, but then there's something I think I could be wrong. It's like 13 degrees. I could be wrong on the number, but that the Earth has shifted because I think it used to, and again I could be wrong. It was pointed directly up. I want to say Sirius. It was, or is it the other one, Orion? It might be Orion actually. It was directly pointed up, and now it's something like 13 degrees off. And again, I'm probably wrong with the numbers. Is there something that could be? Assuming we could even get it on, like, would it work the same? Should we build new pyramids? Or it like how would we even begin?
That's a loaded question. I don't know as the answer. The pyramids originally didn't point towards Orion, uh, pointed towards the triangulum, which is actually behind Orion, um, as far as I remember. Me on that, but as far as I remember. So yeah, we've been lied to about a lot, and I'm just here trying to put the pieces back together, share the information that I have found, both in the astral and the research, and connected to the Taigetans and the Urmah. Um, we actually just lost contact, which has been a huge bummer. But we found out that our contact has been infiltrated about 8 months ago, maybe even sooner. The Federation cut down they cut it off. So I don't know what's going on in space right now. Um, but yeah, we have all the last 7 years of contact. So I have all that information I'm trying to get out there. So if anybody's listening, go to Cosmic Agency. It's Gosha. Follow her. She's one of my teammates, one of my soul family, and we're just trying to get the information out there and try to clear up some things, because there's a battle between there's a battle going on that's been going on for a very long time, between kind of us and ourselves, ourselves from other timelines. Um, so so yeah, it's really important that people stay up on this stuff for sure.
What's the battle? Because this is one of the thing with channeled information. It's like you get a lot of stories and they're similar, but there's always like slight variations between everybody's stories. And you could call it timelines, you could call it perceptions. But what is the story that you're seeing as this big fight that's happening right now? Because it's a revelatory story, the fight between good and evil, heaven and hell. But really, I think I see it as just a sloppy mess of a bunch of people not getting along. But what are you seeing it as when it comes through in your transmissions?
Well, well, so I'm just going to talk about this from a personal perspective. I have incarnated very, very many times, probably thousands of times on Earth, as not always good people. A lot of the times I was a bad person. I had a hand in building the cabal and making the cabal. I had a hand in the mafia stuff and all of these different timelines. So I my incarnations and who I used to be, it's like I'm in a battle between me and myself from another timeline. These other Now I haven't abandoned these avatars, but as you grow in consciousness, you no longer become a frequency match. Like say that I was Akhenaten, for example, and say I was Akhenaten, I was regressive, and I did a lot of bad things. This is going to go against history, you know what I mean? But this is for my timeline. Let's just say this is my reality. It's my timeline. Well, if I kind of am no longer a frequency match with him or with that avatar, I kind of leave all my egregors and all my demons that I was dealing with back in that lifetime. They kind of stay there, because I'm no longer a frequency match with them. And now they have a mind of their own. And now they've completely taken over that person, and they're doing things and they're creating a whole another timeline or a whole bunch of more problems that causes a ripple effect throughout time and history. So there are infinite number of earths going through, and there's a bunch of us popping in. I have memories that aren't even from this earth timeline. So it's just a huge mess and it's very complicated. But I think that when we quote unquote abandoned who we used to be, and we no longer associate our consciousness with that being, it gives rise and it allows other parasitic entities to come in and take over. Because there are a lot of parasitic entity people that we have on the planet.
Mhm.
The George Soros, the Bill Gates, I could go on and on. These are, maybe, yeah. So there's a lot going on, but there's people that have reptile souls and demonic, stuff going on, or they are operating under the regressive extraterrestrial artificial intelligence. And that's how you wonder, if you make a clone in a lab, how do you make it operate? They can't build a soul, they can't put a soul in it. So how does it operate? Well, it operates by the Red Queen, by the regressive AI, through telepathy, through that's why we have all of these 5D towers everywhere and da 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 da. It's all to um, reinforce the power of the lunar matrix, aka 3D reality. It's a frequency suppression system. It's a lot to unpack.
Mm, It really is. It really is. It's funny because you brought up the moon, and I'd forgotten I wanted to ask about the moon because you hear about the moon being a bad guy. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's been neutralized. It's not a bad guy anymore." And it's like, but we're still completely living within its system and controlled by its waves. It's 100% still a factor. Just as Mercury is our second most important factor because it's the next closest and is affecting us in these ways because like there I don't know like escaping the lunar influence. Like do you think the moon is a bad guy on purpose, and do you think we can actually escape it with it still being there and being a part? Like if it was gone, like there is a movie about that. Like if something happens to the moon, our planet's destroyed because we are like symbiotic. We work together. So how do we get out of this moon situation?
How do we get out of the moon situation? By keeping a high frequency, you can transcend the suppression of it. This is why you don't remember your past lives and stuff, is because of the frequency suppression system of the moon. So basically, the moon was built by the Andromedans and Arcturians, I think, like a million years ago, but it was like pretty much destroyed in the war, the Tiamat War. Anyway, it was still good enough for some things, and it was brought here to Earth to stabilize, because when all the water from Tiamat fell on the Earth, it flooded the entire Earth. And watery planets are very unstable. That's how Tiamat got destroyed in the beginning. Um, and so anyway, the Earth was very unstable. So they brought the moon in order to anchor, in order to make the Earth more stable. But the moon has many different um, it has a lot of different things it can do, and one of them is it can trap. It shoots off a hologram, which is 3D reality, which is basically it locks in your perception to a certain specific range, and they use this in order to try to trap the reptilians here, in order to re-educate the reptilians. And then it got hacked by the reptilians. And yeah, now Earth is just run by them, and it has been for a very long time, and it's kind of annoying. So yeah, that's a little bit of history on the moon.
Mhm. That resonates too, the prison because we're a prison planet, but a prison planet taken over by the original prisoners. That actually lines up a lot. And Ashiana Dean mentions, and I vibe with this, that there is a large amount of reptilians that actually do want to ascend, but because they came from such darkness, they have no idea where to begin. So they've attached in with a bunch of star seed style souls. And so there's a bunch of star seeds dualistically, literally going through their ascension with a lizard soul with them so that that lizard soul can ascend too because it helps them, I don't know, speed up the process so they can cut through a lot of the tape in the fact that they are kept prisoners so that they can themselves be released. Do you see anything to that theory?
Sure, sure, why not? I mean, I had a dream the other night, and I was looking at something, and it turned into reptilian eyes. I mean, this is this is part of the collective unconscious of humanity. I mean, it's these things it's just a soup. It's just a mix of this consciousness. So yeah, I see that there's validity there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I want to reverse back before we close out here, because you have such a connection here to the higher realms. When did this start for you? Were you born like this, or did you have like a catalytic moment that brought it all on, or was it gradual?
Well, I'm a walk-in. Are you familiar with what's a
Yes.
walk-in?
Hmm.
So I just got here about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm kind of brand new on the scene. I came through an immersion pod. So I actually came through technology to get here. I didn't incarnate straight from source. So I have settings on my immersion pod, and I have them cranked up as high as possible so that I'm able to remember more, because there's no way I was coming to Earth without my memories, because that would not. That's just I don't like being trapped in such a limited perception range. Um, so what was the question?
Your origin story, like when you came on the scene, being able to speak to higher beings and things like that.
Um, you know, everything kind of all throughout my life, like the previous soul in this avatar, also had abilities and also had connections to different star races than mine. But also, so he's part of my soul family too, so to speak. But always always a more advanced soul comes in after, in a walk-in. But he had abilities, and so this avatar retains the memories of all the experiences that other soul had as well, even though they're a little bit compartmentalized for me. So I've always been able to do this type of stuff. I've had a knack for it. But recently, since the walk-in, um, I've had an explosion of not just memories but abilities. I also had this avatar was into stuff. Fix it for the first year or two. I had to fix my body track with it, and then everything else just, and it was really easy. I started having dreams of my stellar identity, like dreams where I was in my full cat body. You know, knew that I was a feline, and then a lot of it just comes through telepathy. I have family members that are in space with telepathy. It just really was just really natural. I highly recommend it. Immersion next time and have those settings cranked up. It's not easy to relate to humans is the only thing. So this it's not a relatable. It's not a relatable. Put it that way.
Well, it's funny because actually one of the people mentioning here, like Dawn, we're in this group and specifically a few of three of the males, all the males, because it's a pretty even girl guy group, have very similar stories to yours, where they just all of a sudden, wham, got expanded. And then meanwhile, the girls' stories are usually like gradual, 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 gradual. Although I think one of our girls actually resonates with being a walk-in, Sam. But most of us, it's just been gradual, gradual, gradual. Even hers seems kind of gradual, but I had like anointing experiences. I've had experiences where I completely changed, where I had like a full like anointing moment. And then, people have Kundalini's up. I had anointing, which I just considered top down. And I was already spiritually awakening. Like there was already all this work, but there's just moments where it's like, you are so much different. Like you expand. I think it's like we start with like a teeny little serving of our soul. And then the more we expand that cognitive perception, the more we can like house bigger parts of the souls. And the more we could even like attract in bigger souls that want to like work in this vessel's mission. Like there's so many variables. So I find that very interesting that like specifically males seem to report this connection, and like they all have strong connections to outside entities getting in like accurate information. It's fascinating, just like the amount of people. This is just, especially when you consider men too, because women kind of like can inherently like, there's always that pagan naturalness of the feminine that has just always connected to spirit, and then the way that the spirit talks, the way that the earth speaks, it's just always kept us in that connected space. And it's interesting because like that is what the feminine's supposed to be from, and then the males are supposed to be from the stars, like if you're just going back to like pagan tradition, and the males are from the stars. So it's very interesting to hear more men reporting this
Yeah.
literal kind of like space travel aspect.
I was also very much so changed and influenced by Sophia Swaru and the Swarus in general, and the Taigetans and the information that they brought forth. I found that within a couple of months of walking in and just totally absorbed it and applied it to my life. So again, cosmic agency. Swaro official has been compromised. That was the infiltration that happened 8 months ago. So I don't recommend people go to Swaro official. But Cosmic Agency on YouTube, and she also has a Space Academy series. Gosha does, and that information is the most trusted source that I have found thus far.
Amazing. And then one last question, who is this Sophia being that you speak of? Because I think we all know her name, but it sounds like you're speaking of a different Sophia. Who is this being? Because she's the reason Dan reached out to you as well, correct?
Yeah, no, it's the same Sophia that everybody knows. The Sophia consciousness. She's the original Sophia. She's a little girl right now, currently. She's got the brightest blue eyes, and and she's in the astral, and I just know her from there. And she has a lot of teachings at Cosmic Agency. On Cosmic Agency YouTube, there's a lot of her teachings, and she teaches everything that I just talked about. I pretty much almost everything I learned from her, both in the astral and from her teachings through. Um, she was in space. It was in space in Earth's orbit, guiding us and giving us information, leaking it, and then the Galactic Federation had to put a stop to it because we were just waking up too fast. Everything was happening so fast. But yeah, there's a lot to catch up on in that arena. But it's the same Sophia. She's the original Sophia.
Then
Um,
I just want to ask
very.
then, is it true that it was her fault? Because I mean, like blaming the woman being false, I wouldn't be surprised. Like in the Gnostic version, how she stepped outside what she was supposed to do, separated from her Aeon partner, and created the demiurge. Like, is any of that true from the Sophia you speak to?
No,
Yeah,
no,
that's
that's all. She's been hated throughout history. So that's just, misinformation and disinformation to throw people off and turn it into a negative light. The cabal is always trying to do that, take something good and turn it into something negative. That's just straight out of their playbook. And then take the negative and make it look positive too. Like the Enki Enlil thing. They made Enki look as like the good guy or whatever, when in fact he was the negative energy of the two. So they've twisted everything. They twist everything around to fit their narrative and their agenda, and they've done a great job at it.
Mhm. Yeah, haterade. Yeah, agreed. 100%. We are definitely in an inverted universe, and I'm glad you say that because I had a feeling like I tried being into the Gnostics, and a lot of it has some good stuff, but most of it I was like, I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy it. I'm like, "Oh, here we go. We're blaming the female again." And maybe I'm biased, but it just did not sit. And they have a bunch of different versions, all more or less she accidentally did it. She did it on purpose. Like there was all these, but more or less they were still trying to blame her.
I mean, we can get into it in another episode, but basically what it comes down to is the Taigetans were giving knowledge, because Taigetan, we had a colony in Lemuria, and we were giving Atlantis wasn't what you think it is. Atlantis was a global reptilian civilization, and they were doing these experiments on humans, and they were trapping humans, and they were keeping them as slaves through mind control and perception control. And the Taigetans were passing information to the women, the Evas, that were enslaved. So the Taigetans in the Bible, the snake, represents the knowledge and wisdom that the Taigetans were giving to the enslaved Evas. And then they realize, after a certain amount of time, they realized that, hey, they're right, we're being enslaved mentally, and they just started walking out away from the reptilians, and the reptilians couldn't have it. And that was one of the first ancient wars that you've heard about on Ancient Aliens and stuff like that. So yeah, the Taigetans are always symbolized as the snake, and the snake is always twisted as something bad when actually it was something good.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'm big on that train as well. Like, and you hear about like the Lucifer idea, and I do see that, especially in that regard of bringing the wisdom and bringing the information.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, you froze up, but anyway, if anybody can hear me, we're doing the same thing today. We are breaking the paradigm by bringing knowledge and wisdom, specifically from Sophia and the Taigetan crew and the Urmah. And we're trying to do the same thing. Let everybody know that, hey, you're only enslaved through your perception, you know. It's a mental thing. So just you know, walk out of Babylon.
Mhm. 100%. And that's the main thing I'm always teaching is just sovereign discernment, because at the end of the day, with all the stories and everything coming to us from all these different angles, if you're sovereign and discerning, you can find your way.
Yes, exactly. You know, you can tell if somebody's being authentic and real and truthful, just by checking. Really, just go within and check your gut. Really check your gut. Is this the truth or not? Does this resonate or not? Yeah, definitely.
100%. Well, thank you so much. This conversation has been definitely fascinating. I enjoy the wisdom and just the lens that you bring everything through. So this is a real treat. Thank you so much.
Great.
And just
Can I just drop my
well,
Patreon?
that's I was gonna
I
say,
have
let everybody know where they can find you and support you.
all right.
Absolutely.
So Astral Irma all throughout the web on all different platforms. You can get a hold of me on Telegram or through email at um, Astral Irma, I mean, gmail.com, Astral Irma at gmail.com. Yep. I also have an exclusive Get Lucid in the Astral series, an 18-part short video series. For $10 a month, you can support me on Patreon so I can keep doing this full time. I just started that a month ago. I'm really excited about it. It's going really well. I do offer one-on-one sessions and a whole bunch of stuff. And most of my content is free on YouTube, and that is Astral Irma on YouTube. Please check out all the videos. There are a lot of early videos that I did that are really intriguing too. Um, and yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Jake. And thank you, audience. And we will see you all again next time. Goodbye for now.